Get closer to him, like, so I can get you both in it. Hold on. Whenever you're ready.
What's up? This is Corinne, Peace Magazine. We have Dersk here in the building, representing at the Funk Freak Show. So, where
Downtown
did you get
Los
your name?
Angeles.
Oh, go ahead. My address is. So, where did you come up with your name, Dersk?
Actually, I was going through a bunch of different names back in like the late 80s, and I went over to my friend's house, and he had a couple names written on a piece of paper, and Dersk was one of them, and I picked that back in like early '89, and ever since then, that's been my moniker.
Oh, so you've been writing for a long time.
I've been doing like graffiti. I would actually say I started out as like a bus hopper in the valley back in like early '88, and then I didn't really start piecing until I moved up to San Francisco in 2002. I was piecing a little bit before then, but just like in the books. But when I went up there, I had a good writing partner named Zell from ICP, and we went out pretty much like every weekend and made it like a religion.
So you were writing in Frisco and you write in LA?
I was writing up in San Francisco from 2002 to 2008, but I've been writing in LA since early '88, '89.
What city do you prefer?
I like LA. LA is really big and expansive, and you really have to like put in a lot of work to really like make an impact. What I liked about San Francisco was that it was the Bay Area is small in relative to Los Angeles, and there are a lot of writers up there, and you can actually, if you really put in a lot of work, you can go like all city in San Francisco in about like a weekend. And the community is really tied up there, and that's what I really liked about that city.
So you've been writing for a long time. Do you have any advice for any of the new school writers?
Don't be a toy.
No, I mean, like, it's like, it's funny, like the whole thing about a toy or whatever. I was out in Taiwan painting and teaching English, and the writers out there had a term for someone new, and that was like a new hand instead of a toy, because toy can sometimes be derogatory. I guess my advice would be you have to do illegal work. I mean, that's part of graffiti. It's sad that it is, but that's part of it. And then once you figure out that there's the art aspect to it, then you have to tap into that. You have to actually go out to different shows and check out different artists, not just graffiti artists, but like other artists that came before you, because this is the art. It's it's art mainly done with aerosol, but it's also art that can be done with brush and with other things. Like graffiti is like all different things combined to be like one thing, and it transcends certain cultures and certain diversity lines, which is like awesome.
Do you have any favorite tips that you use?
It depends like what can I'm using. Like if I'm using like a Montana 94, I'll use the tip that comes with it. But if I'm using like Painter's Touch or Rust-Oleum, then I always use a stock tip, just because that's what I like to use with it. It doesn't make sense to put a different tip on it, just to use it the way it is.
I got a question. Where's your favorite spot in LA to paint?
Man, my favorite spot to paint in LA, I would have to say, like anywhere, like kind of like downtown, like trackside, in the cuts. There used to be a lot of spots. I mean, Belmont was really, happening. I only painted there like once when I was like a new hand back in the day. But pretty much like anywhere in LA is like our favorite spots to paint at. It doesn't really matter like where. It's just like when and how we're gonna do it.
And where do you prefer to paint? San Francisco or Los Angeles?
I mean, I prefer to paint like anywhere I can. I usually like to travel. I like to travel more often than I did before. It's nice to meet different artists. I recently went out to North Carolina and spent some time out there and met some really talented artists. My homeboy Gus Cuddy, Gus is Rich. You can find him on Facebook. He's really good at characters. You know, there's a bunch of artists, Foul from Lord's Crew. A bunch of different artists are out there, and it's nice to meet artists from different places. New York City, I gotta give it up to Hoax and Sebs and Zimmer and Mech from FUA. And you know, I like to paint in LA too. Like LA is nice. I gotta give it up to, you know, everybody, like ICR crew and everybody else. So, you know, this is how it is.
And my last question, where have you gone to paint at that was just like the most, like anywhere in the world? Could you say like the most amazing experience you've had, like damn, this is why I do
Taiwan was really off the hook because you could go out there and they have like a river that runs through the city in Taipei, and there are walls out there that are probably about like 2 stories, 3 stories high, and they're buffed white, and they say in Chinese graffiti area. And when I got out there, it was just, in Asia, they really love it. You have to really go overseas. I mean, United States is like, you know, where it's at in terms of graffiti, like traditional, what we think of graffiti. But once you get out of the States and you go to different countries, that's where it's going on, and that's where more of like love, not from the artists themselves, but from the community, from, you know, the people surrounding the area. They really adhere to it and embrace it more, I would say, than the United States. But it also depends where you go. You can go to New York City, you can go to LA, you can go to San Francisco, Philadelphia, Miami, and in Chicago, and they embrace, you know, graffiti. But like when you go out of the States, more people, not just artists, but you know, more people like embrace it a little bit more than they would in the United States.
Hell yeah. So any shout outs you want to give?
I gotta give a shout out to my homeboy Hydra, Jero, Els, Cools, Ant, Mid, ICR crew, FUA crew out in New York, upstate New York. I gotta give it up to everybody out there actually carrying a writing utensil and tagging on everything you can. I gotta give it up to my Bay Area homeboys, Optimus, Drama, Aider. You know, there's too many to name, but I would say everybody out there actually producing constantly graffiti work on the walls or on canvas and really pushing our art movement forward. I gotta give props to them.
Hell yeah.
That's right here, right now, Dersk.
And I gotta give it up to Peace Magazine. That's what's up, holding it down. LA, go cop it. Go check out their Facebook. You need to get on their magazine and check it out. It's the new shit. That's what's cracking. Dersk 1.
Yeah, smart fella.